First step in making the American flag, I just got some regular 2x4's non-treated, and I measured out about 1 inch. So I will be cutting off 1 inch pieces and gluing them together. Next step, I've got some regular wood glue. I didn't want to spend too much money on this project, so I just got the regular wood glue, and I'm applying some wood glue on each piece. After that, I will smear it with my finger and wood clamp everything together. So I'm getting some wood clamps ready to clamp on, and just to let you know, I did wind up making the flag a little bit taller. So I just get the wood clamps, I'm putting 3 on here, clamp everything down. It doesn't have to be perfect because the surface area is going to be ground down or sanded down anyways. So I tried sanding it down with a orbital sander, and I figured out that I was going to be sanding for quite some time. So I decided to get my grinder, my angle grinder, and I put a sanding disc on that, and I noticed that it started to take things down a lot faster. Now I know that there's certain tools to do this a little bit better and quicker, but I just kind of went with what I had on hand, and it really didn't turn out too bad. It did take a little bit of time, but overall it came out very nicely. This is what it looks like when everything is done. As you can see, I already sanded a groove down, and I used the same sanding disc, and I'm simply trying to create the wave effect in the wood itself. And I wound up doing this throughout the whole flag. So after all that is done, I wound up getting the orbital sander. I'm using the Boyer sander. I bought it from Harbor Freight. I really like this sander. I've used it on multiple projects, and it's really good. It's variable speed, and just really like it. It's a really good sander, in my opinion, for the best bang for the buck. And I'm showing you what grit that I'm using to start out with. I'm using an aggressive grit to sand everything down, and I wound up stepping everything up to a finer grit to smooth everything out. This is what it looks like after all done sanding with the grinder and sanding with the orbital sander. Next, I'm going to go ahead and get the torch, and I want to create a burning effect. I noticed that this is really popular, and I can see why. So I'm just kind of going over the whole flag area intermittently, and you can always do too less, but if you do too much, you got to kind of blend it in. So just kind of keep that in mind if you're ever using this method. You just want to make sure that you do too little. It's better to do too little than too much, and then you can always add more. And this is what it looks like once completed with the torch on the wood. Try to evenly distribute all the burns. Next, I go ahead and get a stencil that I bought off of Amazon. If you're looking for any stencils, I will go ahead and put a link in the description box below. That and most of the tools that I used, if not all of them. So I'm tracing everything out here. And next I'm going to put some tape over my trace marks. And I'm going to fill that background in with some blue paint. And if you're wondering what kind of paint I'm just using a cheap acrylic type paint that I got from Walmart. It's extremely cheap. I think I paid like a couple bucks for each one, a red, white, and blue. And I'm just applying it on nice and evenly. One thing to make sure is when you put your tape down, make sure that your tape is sealed on the edges. You may go over it several times with your finger tip just to push everything down. Next, go ahead and get the stencil out and lay it inside of the blue tape. Go ahead and tape everything down as well. And I carefully trace out each and every star with a pencil. I tried to skip this step and just put paint on inside of the stars, and it didn't work. Since there's waves, it leaked all out, and I had to clean everything off and start over again. So just to let you know, now I should have stained a lot of these pieces beforehand and painted them and then put them together, but I kind of wanted to do something different and hand paint everything. I figured it would be more vibrant and look a lot nicer that way. So I'm kind of taking my time, making sure that I paint everything correctly. And this is what it looks like when everything is traced out, all the stars. Next I will go through and paint. So the main thing is what I found out is to get a fine point on the brush, and I go over all the lines, make sure that I stay within the lines. And it was a timely process, but overall I do think that it turned out quite well. And this is what it looks like when all is said and done and dried. So I went ahead and traced out my lines on where I wanted to start painting here, and I kind of didn't really think about this beforehand. I just thought that I could freehand and make everything look nice and presentable, but once I got done with it, I figured out that it really didn't turn out as good as I wanted it to. And this is what it looks like, just freehanding, no tape lines. Probably could have left the other lines a dark brown or light brown instead of painting them white, but I figured that that would take away the flag on what it's supposed to mean. So I decided to go ahead and still freehand the white stripes next. And this is what it looks like. As you can see, it's kind of jagged and it's not exactly straight like I wanted it to. So I decided to go ahead and put some tape down and paint over the areas that I had done to get more of a finer line, and that actually worked out very well. So next, after all that was done and I peeled off the tape, I got some Minwax fast drying polyurethane. This is a can that's been sitting around in the garage for quite some time, and I had just enough left to do this flag. So I shake it up, spray it on to get that glossy look to it, and it also makes the waves in the flag come out when it puts that shine on there, and it really does a great job on enhancing the wave effect of the flag. And this is what it looks like once everything is dried after putting the clear on there. And the next step, I want to go ahead and put some trim around the edges. The color that I'm using, it's like a real light pecan. It doesn't really stand out too much. I didn't want too much of a dark trim around the flag because I felt that it just wouldn't look that well. So I really just wanted to darken this pine up just a little bit. Got my pieces cut here, and the next thing is to put everything on and nail it up. And this is the final result. I put some hangers on the back as well. Just kind of hung it on the wall to do the video, and that's it.